There you go. That's our opportunity, that wonderful Queensland plan. And, excuse me, it's great to be able to say that because in the studio I have Darren Grimwade and he is in it up to his ears. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
Yeah, very good to have you come back into the studio when I get my tongue into the right spot, Darren. But you're a pretty busy boy right now.
Yeah, there's lots going on at the moment. Obviously, for us as a state government, we delivered our budget in June, and we've sort of hit the traps out there promoting, what the good things we are or what's available to Queenslanders. And I think after a tough period last year and having to make some tough decisions, I think the budget we just released in June, strikes a good balance between delivering appropriate services to Queenslanders and also, obviously, having to get through some troubled times when it comes to the fiscal repair task or the finances. So yeah. I think we're on the right track. And, I was just talking to you a second ago about the Queensland plan and, some of the feedback that's been coming in regards to that. And, there's a lot of emphasis on at the moment about public transport and roads, for example, and education. They seem to be the two things that people are talking about through the Queensland plan. So, and that has happened to be two things that, in our electorate here, we've struck a good chord with the budget and delivering some good projects.
Yeah. Darren, we had Trevor Ruthenberg and Reg Gully in last Monday, and they sort of highlighted a lot of those wonderful things that have come out of the budget for their areas and obviously for ours as well. So you would be heavily involved in that too.
Yeah, well, look, education's one of the biggest things in our area. In the electorate of Morayfield, there's lots of young families around, and certainly through that Queensland plan process of getting those surveys back in, people are talking about that. So, I highlighted here a few weeks ago when I did my budget update that, there's a lot of good things in education. We've got the new high school, I'm sure Trevor would have mentioned as well, at Burpengary there, the new Burpengary High School that's now, planning's under construction there. We've got, $4.8 million for Narangba Valley State High School and $3.1 million for Morayfield High School for new classrooms. Yeah. We've got the $1.2 million new kindergarten at Narangba in Ginnabarra State School, Ginnabarra State School facilities there. Even projects like the school flashing lights at Morayfield East State School as well, they're coming on board. Most recently we had the Premier out here delivering prep teacher aids to our young kids at Narangba State School there. Oh, really? There was 5 schools in my electorate that actually got allocations of additional prep teacher aids. These are pretty important things when it comes to education and delivering, core services and providing the right resources for our kids.
Yeah. And Darren, I know it sort of sounds fairly ordinary, but, if we get the right teachers to those little people right at the word go, it's going to make it so much better and so much cheaper for all of us, isn't it? Yeah,
well, you're absolutely right, and having those prep teacher aids is pretty well critical. I think I highlighted that throughout the release of that information. But, one of the other areas, everyone seems to be talking about this branding exercise of Gonski, for example, and whilst it's great, and, I'll come out there and put it on the record and say we should have additional funding in education, and I think the Minister has said that a number of times as well. We can't just sort of go and sign up to something one, we don't know exactly what it's going to do and what it's going to deliver for our kids, and 2, where it takes away vital funding. And I think people need to understand. That's right. I think people need to understand that when you're ripping $2.5 billion out of universities, you're taking out $700 million of kindergartens, and you're taking away $2.1 billion of national partnership money, which is money that's predominantly used to facilitate education needs or support for people with disabilities and learning difficulties and things like that. That's basically what the federal government's doing. They're removing those areas and, rolling it into Gonski. Well, I don't think just throwing money at something actually just fixes the overall problem. No. I don't think you can take away from other educational areas and say, we fixed it. And I guess that's where the state government, another good outcome for education is, the state government's released our Great Teachers Equals Great Results plan. It's $535 million. And there's a couple of areas, of core areas that, I think will really benefit our kids. One of those is that the program offers up 200 master degrees, so teachers can go and get better qualifications and up-to-date skills. And I think, from a take the political hat off and put the Darren hat on, I think, when we've got teachers, like you said, that are up to date, they're well resourced, they're well educated, they've got the current skills, they're in a better position to teach our children, and that's what we should be looking for. Yeah. As part of that program, there's incentives to reward teachers that go out of their way and are high-performing teachers. I think that's important. And one of the other parts of it is that it offers the opportunity for experienced teachers and high-performing teachers to actually mentor our new teachers. So our new teachers that are coming through, which in fact this budget actually has 724 new teachers coming through. It gives the ability for those experienced teachers to have a better mentoring role with those new teachers coming through. And these sort of programs, these are really important with the overall education of our kids. And I think, from a state government's position, we want to focus on that. We don't want to focus on a branding exercise, I suppose, of, Gonski and just roll it into one program, have a brand, what it's about. We want to be out there telling people what we're doing, what we see as the areas we need to better improve to get better outcomes for our kids. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just letting our listeners know, if they've just tuned in, we've got Darren Grimwade, the state member for Morayfield, chatting to us about, we've been through the budget a bit, some of the wonderful things that are happening for our region, and we're just hitting on Gonski here now for a few moments. Yeah. Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, well, and you're right. I mean, it's important that we have the debate. Most definitely the Gonski's out there and people are talking about it, but, they're the sort of things, when I go out in the community and I speak to mums and dads, and even when I go out there and I speak to teachers and principals and deputies and support staff, these are the kind of things they tell us they want. They want incentive, for those ones that are going out of their way to be great teachers. And we've got a number of those around the electorate. They tell us they want the opportunity to have master's degrees, to have qualifications and most recent qualifications in their studies for free. They tell us, more importantly, they want principals to have disciplinary power. When I go out and I talk to mums and dads and teachers, they tell me that, there's no discipline in schools anymore like it was when I was a kid. This program, introduces the ability for principals to have that power. Mm-hmm. I don't think, and I don't really want to talk on a federal case of Gonski and have this political battle, because I think people are sick and tired of it, to be honest. But our job is to go out there and say what we're doing. I don't think the federal government's actually saying what they're doing. They're saying we've got this program called Gonski and it's going to cost all this money, but they don't actually tell you what it's going to do. No. And it's our job to tell people what we're going to do. And I think, we're touching on before, Kevin Rudd's now the Prime Minister of Australia. This is also the guy that promised to deliver laptops to every student in Queensland in high school. I'm not sure that there's many people in grade 9 around the high schools of my electorate that actually receive one of these promised laptops. You can't go out and promise things in education and then not deliver them. I think that our program, our great teachers equals great results. I think that's an important part, and I can say, as I get around and talk to parents and I talk to, more importantly, teachers and principals, they definitely support what we're doing.
Good, yeah. And, in any work environment, you're appraised on your performance, and, teachers should be as well. And if you're really good at what you're doing, you get the reward. Yeah,
well, absolutely. I mean, teachers, are very critical, obviously, in the development of our young people and our kids. Yeah. And where teachers, have the ability to be at a high standard, they're going out of their way, they're involved in the school community before and after school, doing extra, curriculum activities, which a number of them are, footy coach and things like that. Yep. This gives the ability for principals to have a bonus pool, if you like, to be able to allocate them some additional finances or a bonus incentive. Yep. For the great work they're doing. And I think that when you're going out there and you're doing the great role that a lot of them do, I think that little pool is, a good opportunity for them to get some incentive for it.
Absolutely, yeah. What else have we got there, Darren? You've got lots of notes.
Yeah, well, look, one of the other things I wanted to just touch on today was, in the other big area of the Queensland Plan survey that we're getting a lot of responses back on is to do with public transport and roads. And, we've got a number of projects going on all around the electorate at the moment. So I thought I'd just touch on some of those today.
Please.
I've actually got one here that I've actually just been talking to the Minister for Transport and Main Roads this morning, and I've been sort of advocating and lobbying for a project on behalf of a few constituents down in Burpengary for the last 6 to 12 months, and I was just speaking to him this morning, and I'm just probably going to make an announcement on the radio today, which is probably pretty rare, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We've got another project up and running, but before I get to that one, some of the money we've spent in the budget and some of the things we see happening around the electorate, things like the $5.2 million dedicated to the Morayfield Road upgrade. Stage 1 of that's almost complete now. Mm-hmm. The bridge decking is just about to go on over the railway down there, and once that goes on, that stage 1 of that project will be complete. So that'll be great. And one of the other things that we're doing, of course, is the Morayfield bus interchange. So anyone that's caught a bus around the place that stops at Morayfield Shopping Centre will definitely understand that there's a lot of congestion around there. There's a lot of traffic. There's taxi problems when it comes to where do these taxis pull up and discharge. Yep. So what we've done is we've put $1 million into the budget this year for an overall project that's going to be probably around $5 to $6 million over the next 12 months. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing is looking at reconfiguring the whole interchange. So if you've ever been somewhere like, Browns Plains bus interchange or Chermside bus interchange, we're looking to get something similar to that, whether it's an easy flowing transition for buses to come in. There's, cohesion with the taxi companies as well. And of course, there's not a lot of disruption for cars and traffic that are also using the shopping centre, and of course, the safety of pedestrians. So there's a lot to do with that, and obviously for us, that's a bit of an area around the electorate, or right in the heart of my electorate, that needs addressing, and that'll be a good boost to those that those people in the community that use the bus services. So, and of course, with our trains, we've got the Narangba train station upgrade that's now nearing completion. It's on its final touches now. I had the Minister for Transport out here looking at that with us a few weeks ago. There, it's just about done. And of course the one that I want to announce today, which is the Burpengary train station. We've been fighting hard and lobbying on behalf of a lot of constituents down there. That the previous government built a car park and some facilities down there, but there was no access to the actual platform from that new car park. No. So to get there, you sort of had to walk, all the way up. 500 metres to a K around, around the merry-go-round, trying to get to the platform, and of course get a go-kart touch terminal to actually touch on to catch the train. Yeah. So we've sort of been fighting for an allocation of funding to ensure that we can get something going there, and the Minister today has been speaking to me, and we will be announcing that the upgrade to the entrance project there at the Burpengary train station will be going ahead. And that's again some great news, because it's one of those littler, if you like, projects that the community have really been asking for and lobbying me hard. And I've been out there and I've been speaking to commuters in the Burpengary train station, and this project will see a sort of a concrete path, if you like, entering from the car park up until the platform. Yep. The gates will be put there as well, so they've got access to the platform from there, and an additional go-kart touch terminal will be placed right there at the entrance, so people can touch on and get on the train. So I'll be doing some media in and around the community over the next few days on that, but it's another one of those good examples of working with the community, working with my constituents, and of course the Minister and Queensland Rail to get a project that is much needed for the commuters that use that service.
Darren, when you really sort of boil it down, there's no great big things that people are wanting, is it? They want those little things that make life easier for them to go ahead and earn their living. So, it's quite amazing. Of course, there's lots of big things that are happening that are on your plates, but the general run-of-the-mill person just wants to know that they can get to their workplace and do what they need to do, and then to get home, don't they? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, there's lots of big ticket items that sort of get floated around the place from time to time in politics, but when I get out and I do my community corners where I'm, standing on the side of the road there, and some of the listeners might have seen me from time to time, where it gives, people access to myself to stop in just a general environment on the side of the road and have a chat. People generally aren't talking about the big ticket items. They're not talking about those billion-dollar programs. What they're talking about is little things like this. Local roads, potholes, the Burpengary train station entrance project. It's been something that's been big in the views of the constituents. These are little projects, that people, to be quite frank, sort of it makes their life a little bit of a misery, every day. And I think, as a regular commuter, when you're paying decent fares to use train services and things like that, having to walk a K to get onto the platform every day, I mean, these are the things that really make people a bit miserable when their morning starts. So having things like this corrected and projects and infrastructure built like this, these little things around the community, is a real benefit to mums and dads.
Little things, big things grow.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And there's lots of little things that happen that we're able to do, and we wouldn't be able to do them if people don't bring them to my attention, and they regularly do via the website, whether my Facebook, via my community corners, by the many different areas that I'm out and about in the community. Even if my community groups from time to time, people bring things up with me, and you find out about these little projects, and then it's your job, whether it's working with the council or working with our own state government departments, to go out and look at ways of rectifying them or finding funding to fix them. And that's probably one of the greatest things of this job, and why I love this job so much. You get out of bed every morning, and you wake up to news like this every day, and you've ticked off one more thing that's sort of irritating people around the community, and we fix that problem. Now we move on to the next.
Your constituents, aren't they?
Absolutely,
and it's always good to do them. Darren, you said to me just prior to coming on air that the changes in the federal government, the Queensland plan, and quite a few other things have made the phones in your office run hot. So isn't it great that they're thinking, I need to talk to Darren about this and he'll be able to tell me. I can sort of see the positive in it, and I think it also makes it that the local people want to talk locally, don't they? They want to talk to the guy that they know in their area that may be able to shed a bit of light on some of the stupidness that we've been seeing recently.
Yeah,
and cut the Queensland pen out of it.
No, you're absolutely right there, and I couldn't agree with you more when it comes to the federal election campaigns on now. And people get a bit confused sometimes between the different levels of government, yes. And that's something that the Premier Campbell Newman's been speaking about as well. Maybe we should look at some stage of working out which government is fully responsible for what services.
Yes.
That was another promise. As we go back again, I don't want to make it too political, but Kevin Rudd promised that he'd take over the whole of the health. In Australia to stop this, states bickering with the federal government and vice versa. Well, at the moment we've sort of got, the federal government's responsible for a bit of health and us and some, and education's the same. And, I think that overall, you're right with what you say, and as the phones go hot, it gives us an opportunity, I guess, that people are ringing up and they're wanting to talk about, gone school education. They're wanting to talk about things that may be of a federal nature, but it does give me an opportunity to talk to those constituents and tell them some of the good things the state government's doing. Yeah. So I encourage that, and as more and more people contact our office, yes, we get busy, but it does give us an opportunity for, in most cases, for us to respond, whether it's via email or letter, if they've written to me, or a phone call back, and people appreciate the call back sometimes, to have a chat about, what the local guy is doing, what are we doing here locally. People don't really care too much what's happening in Western Australia when it comes to education, or what the New South Wales government's doing. What they care about is what their school's doing, and how their school's benefiting, and how their kids will benefit, and I think that's rightly so, because that's human nature. And I suppose when people talk to me specifically, I'm able to give them details of what is happening with their children at their local school, with our local hospital, what's happening in their local community with roads, those sorts of things. And, it's just a good opportunity to talk to as many people as I can.
Darren, as usual, we know you're out there working flat out, and we hope you continue to do that for us. We need all the help we can get, and all the good help we can get is always good. I'm going to thank Darren now for his time this morning, and thank him for the information that he's provided to us, and we'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
No worries, and thanks for having me on your show, and I'll see you next time.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Darren. We'll just go off now and have a little bit of Coldplay and Rihanna.